I'm here. Good morning and welcome. My name is Ted Lillis. I use pronouns he and him, and it is my honor and pleasure to be in the pulpit today as the worship associate with our minister, the Reverend Dara Bryants. We as a congregation gratefully acknowledge the Patuxet Wampanoag people on whose ancestral lands we gather and worship today. We commit to support and honor their history and culture. Welcome to all of you, members, friends, newcomers alike, whoever you are, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, whatever your age, young or older. For this hour, you are part of this congregation and you are welcome here. Everyone is invited to coffee hour following the service in the assembly hall. It's through the door here on my left. Just follow the crowd. For those of you who are visiting today, please take a red mug during coffee hour so that we can offer you a warm First Parish greeting. And if you'd like to know more about this congregation and faith, I encourage you to stop by the welcome table in the assembly hall and fill out a welcome card. I'd like to lift up a few announcements this morning from this week's news, and I encourage you to read it for more information on social justice activities and opportunities to participate in a variety of our outreach programs. And you can sign up for our weekly and monthly newsletters on our website, uuducks.org. So today in RE, your children will begin discussing the theme of embracing possibilities. And there is also a Fun Friday movie night scheduled for this Friday at 5:30. Inside Out 2 will be played. There'll be pizza and salad. And it will also be in the assembly hall where we're having coffee hour. And if you haven't registered your children yet, there's still time to register. Just see Missy any time today, waving her hand over there. And if you missed it, adult choir under the supervision of our new music director, Sophie Manservis, began rehearsals this morning in the chapel, actually in the Harvey Hall. For more information, look in your order of service. One correction in the email, the deadline for the October bell ringer will be Wednesday, September 24th, not October 24th. Share the plate nominations for this church year are due this coming Friday, September 26th. There's a form with instructions on our website. So if you have someone that you would like to, an organization you'd like to nominate, please make sure to get those nominations in to the administrator, to Lenore, by this coming Friday. A plug for the fellowship committee. Congregational support for coffee hour is based on a rotation of members and friends' last names. And that support could be providing treats for the buffet, helping to set up prior to the morning service, or hosting coffee hour. Stop by the kitchen before or after service and see how you can help. Also, one other thing, next Sunday, is it? Yep. Next Sunday will be the blessing of the animals. So if you have an animal, any kind of animal that will be happy in this space, please bring your friend, your animal friend, to be blessed. And finally, some technocrat decided that our church administrator's email is going to change, so please take note of that. That includes updating any communications your committee or task force might have, or any forms that you use. And the technocrat won't be taking complaints. Joys and concerns. You'll notice this Sunday we're experimenting with written joys and concerns and care for our world. In front of the pulpit here is a station. There is a bowl with sand and joy and concern cards. You are invited to light a candle and fill out a card at any point between the time you arrive in the sanctuary up until we engage in the joys and concerns ritual, at which time Reverend Dara or the worship associate will read aloud the cards to the congregation.
Oh, no worries. Let us turn now and say hello to all of our folks joining us on Zoom so that we can welcome them into our space with us. Thanks, Emma. So good morning. My name is Dara Bryans, and I am the minister here at First Parish in Duxbury, and I use she, her pronouns. We are so glad that you are here with us this morning. And this morning, I'm really excited because we are honoring our Unitarian Universalist history by celebrating the 200th birthday of Frances Ellen Watkins Harper. She was a Black woman born on September 24th in 1825. She was a poet who published many of her poems in newspapers and in periodicals. She published books. And our opening words this morning are from her poem, Songs for the People, and I have adapted it into a responsive reading. I'll read the plain text, and you will join in with the many, that is the italicized text. The words are in your order of service, and they'll also be on the screen. Let me make the song for the people, songs for the old and the young, songs to stir like a battle cry, wherever they are sung. Let me make the songs for the weary amid life's fever and fret, till hearts shall relax their tension and careworn brows forget. I would sing for the poor and aged when shadows dim their sight, of the bright and restful mansions where there shall be no night. Music to soothe all its sorrow, till war and crime shall cease, and the hearts of men grown tender girdle the world with peace. Our opening hymn this morning is There's a River Flowin' in My Soul, and it was written by Faya Ora Rose Touré. In addition to being the first Black woman to become a judge in the state of Alabama, she is also a prolific playwright and songwriter. I invite you to rise as you are able and join in singing our opening hymn. The lyrics are at 10:07 in the Teal hymnals and on our screens.
No, she's back.
Oh, she is. Oh, excellent. standing for our chalice lighting and doxology as we invite Pat Schlechter and Peter Jackson up to light our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith.
Let this flame be to us a symbol of the wholeness we seek. Its glow reminding us of the sacred bonds that link us to all living things. Its radiance calling us to cast the light of freedom, justice, and peace on the whole world. You may be seated. So, I don't know if you all remember last Sunday, we got ready to sing our children out, and I threw a new song at all of you, and it was a bit of a debacle. So today, I want to explain to you why we have a new song that we're using to sing the children out, and it is because the hymn that we were using, the composer asked that her lyrics not be changed. And when we sing, "May the spirit of love surround you," she actually wrote that line to be, "May the spirit of God surround you." Now, in taking a poll of the Worship and Music Committee, we decided we might try a new hymn for this Singing Our Children Out. So this morning, Sophie is going to take us through our new song, line by line, and teach it to us. We will see how it goes, and we can always go back to the old song, singing it the way the author or lyricist intended, or choose another one, but we're going to give this one a go. So Sophie, you're on.
Everybody, hello. Hello, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me through my magic mic. All right, so I'm just going to sing one line, and then you're going to repeat after me. So we're going to start here with the beginning. May the long time sun shine upon you. May the long time sun shine upon you. Next line. All us around you. All us around you.
Sophie. That was so beautiful. So this week we are beginning our experiment with written joys and concerns and care for our world. And if you would take a couple of deep breaths with me and sit quietly as I sort through and get them a little bit organized. So please breathe in. Breathe in the serenity of our sanctuary, and breathe out any cares. We'll begin this morning with our joys. From Debbie Pacheco, a candle or a prayer or lifting up of a joy. I am blessed for my family. From Cynthia Simmons, Dick and I are joyous to have our dear friend and courageous activist visiting us from Bosnia and here with us today. Welcome. And from Marcy Jackson, to be part of the new choir, a great joy. For all of these joys and those that remain silent on our heart, I light a candle. And for the sorrows that we come bringing with us into our sanctuary this morning, from Marcy Jackson, we have a sorrow that my heart bleeds for the state of the world. And from Debbie Pacheco, my siblings struggle with health issues. And we have an anonymous sorrow for my friend's 24-year-old son spent the night in the OR for an emergency, having heart surgery. Stay strong, Kurt. And I have submitted a candle of concern, and it is for my cousin Allison's husband Hassan, who is from Lebanon originally, and he is flying today as we're meeting here, home to Lebanon for 3 weeks. My cousin Allison is understandably afraid for his safety, given that their apartment in Beirut was bombed this summer. If you would all hold Hassan in your hearts and prayers for the next weeks, I would appreciate it. And from Cindy Wilson, a good friend, Andre Kamenbreko, has been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And from Mike Wilson, friend Lou Garrett, also diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. I apologize, family with death of son Chris at age 39. We lift up that sorrow. For all of these sorrows and for those concerns that remain silent on our heart, I light a second candle. And finally, we lift up our cares for the world. From Julie Lillies, I am so distressed to hear the news of suffering in Gaza and Ukraine. How can one react? For this and all the other cares for our world, which surely needs our thought, our love, and our prayers,
we light a final candle. And now, as we enter into our time of prayer and contemplation, I would again like to remind you to bring your understanding of this practice to our time now. As we begin, again, breathe in with me and out, letting go of the noise in your head, all of your to-do lists, your anticipations, and your worries. There is truly nowhere else you need to be than here, right now, with us in community. Our prayer this morning comes from UU minister, the Reverend Leif Seligman. Loving God, we pause in the stillness to rest for a moment, to quiet ourselves so that we can feel what stirs within us. Each breath draws us closer to the pulse of life, and with each exhalation, we make room for something new. May we find in this gathering the comfort of those who care. May we encounter patience along our growing edges and compassion in our most tender spots. Here may we find the inspiration and encouragement we need to face our challenges and to nurture ourselves. And in the presence of suffering across the globe, may we redouble our efforts to practice kindness where we can, with the hope that the light of our actions travels like the light of faraway stars. May our gestures of compassion and generosity seed possibility. May we travel humbly with one another, choosing reconciliation over resentment as we try to live right-sized. When life presses in and shifts us off balance, when pain assails us, when frustrations mount, may the rhythm of our breath steady us and bring us back to the place of gratitude. May it be so. We will be held in several moments of silence. Amen.
Our reading this morning is an excerpt of a speech given by Frances Ellen Watkins Harper. In May 1866, Ms. Harper, a leading poet, lecturer, civil rights activist, and Unitarian, addressed the 11th National Women's Rights Convention in New York, joining Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Susan B. Anthony, and Lucretia Mott, who were among the featured speakers. We are all bound up together. I am something of a novice on this platform, born of a race whose inheritance has been outrage and wrong. Most of my life has been spent in battling against these wrongs. But I did not feel as keenly as others that I had these rights in common with other women, which are now demanded. About 2 years ago, I stood within the shadows of my home. A great sorrow had fallen upon my life. My husband had died suddenly, leaving me a widow with 4 children, one my own and the other stepchildren. I tried to keep my children together, but my husband died in debt, and before he had been in his grave 3 months, the administrator had swept the very milk crocks and wash tubs from my hands. I was a farmer's wife, and made butter for the Columbus market. But what could I do when they had swept all away? They left me one thing, and that was a looking glass. Had I died instead of my husband, how different would have been the result? By this time, he would have had another wife, it is likely, and no administrator would have gone into his house, broken up his home, and sold his bed, and taken away his means of support. I took my children in my arms, and I went out to seek my living. While I was gone, a neighbor to whom I had once lent $5, it's about $100 in today's time, went before a magistrate and swore that he believed I was a non-resident and laid an attachment on my very bed. And I went back to Ohio with my orphan children in my arms without a single feather bed in this wide world that was not in the custody of the law. I say then that justice is not fulfilled so long as woman is unequal before the law. We are all bound up together in one great bundle of humanity, and society cannot trample on the weakest and feeblest of its members without receiving the curse in its own soul. You tried that in the case of the Negro. You pressed him down for 2 centuries, and in so doing, you crippled the moral strength and paralyzed the spiritual energies of the white man in the country. When the hands of the black were fettered, white men were deprived of the liberty of speech and the freedom of the press. Society cannot afford to neglect the enlightenment of any class of its members. At the South, the legislation of the country was in behalf of the rich slaveholders, while the poor white man was neglected. What is the consequence today? From that very class of neglected poor white man comes the man who stands today with his hand upon the helm of the nation. He fails to catch the watchword of the hour and throws himself, the incarnation of meanness, across the pathway of the nation. My objection to Andrew Johnson is not that he had been a poor white man. My objection is that he keeps poor whites all the way through. That is the trouble with him. This grand and glorious revolution which has commenced will fail to reach its climax of success until, throughout the length and breadth of the American Republic, the nation shall be so colorblind as to know no man by the color of his skin or the curl of his hair. It will then have no privileged class, trampling upon, outraging the unprivileged classes, but will be then one great privileged nation, whose privilege will be to produce the loftiest manhood and womanhood that humanity can attain. Here ends our reading.
As we do each week, we will now collect the morning's offering. These gifts go to support the life and work of our congregation. I encourage you to give as generously as you are able as we bask in the music of our First Parish Choir. May the ushers please come forward.
I think that was amazing. I'm just gonna say thank you. I'm so excited for the choir. You all did an amazing job. The first time that I fell in love with Unitarian Universalism, I was sitting in the sanctuary at the Unitarian Universalist Area Church at First Parish in Sherborne, UUAC for those who love it. Daryl was sitting next to me as we tried and failed miserably to keep our two very young children quiet and still. We were new to this church, new to any church together as a couple, if I'm going to be truly honest. And as many couples with young children do, we were looking for a community to raise our children in. And as I sat in the peace of that sanctuary with windows so very much like ours here, these clear windows that let in all of the sunlight of a beautiful fall day, the congregation rose, as we did, to light the chalice and say together their covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. And I felt tears pricking at my eyes. My soul heaved a huge, huge sigh of relief, and my body let go of tension that I didn't even know it had been holding, and I felt at home. I was in that moment so ready to come back to that church just to hear those words again. And then we got to the end of the service, and the minister, Reverend Nathan Dietering, invited us all to say together our call to ministry. We all said together, "We go forth into the world in peace, to act with works of love, to affirm each person's dignity, and to cherish the living earth."
And those words laid me out flat, fully. I wondered, what would it be like to live those words? To not just say them, but to internalize them, to embody them. They are truly aspirational. These words of the covenant and the call to ministry beckon to the person that I want to be. And as you might have intuited from my opening words, that for the first time, when the first time was that I fell in love with Unitarian Universalism, that there came a time when maybe I wasn't so in love with Unitarian Universalism. And I'm going to be honest that Unitarian Universalism did disappoint me. And it was hard to have this chosen faith lose some of its shine. But not long after I became a member at UUAC, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. Needing somewhere to lay my worries and to voice my fears, I started asking people, hey, what do you think? What do you think about a prayer circle? Would you join me in that circle? To say that my suggestion met with resistance would be to undersell it a bit. One memorable response from an older, long-time member who had at some point or another been in every single leadership position in that church. She responded to me and said, bunk. Prayer is bunk. Why would anyone want to do that? What about seek truth and love? Help one another? Act with works of love? I did not hear those values in that response. I started to think perhaps Unitarian Universalism was not for me. Perhaps we UUs love to talk about these values, but we're not maybe so good at living them. Perhaps there's an unspoken litmus test. Perhaps UUs were like the religion I was raised in, where the congregation recited a creed every week that they didn't seem to actually believe. Perhaps I wasn't really welcome. Perhaps. And what kept me in this faith tradition was that other folks did join with me in creating a prayer group. Others who listened beyond their own feelings and thoughts about prayer, who supported the idea of a prayer group even if it was not their cup of tea. And over time, I've had more of these moments of disappointment in this faith tradition. And sometimes what has drawn me back has been the example of our Unitarian, our Universalist, and our Unitarian Universalist ancestors and forebearers. Because we are a faith tradition full of brave and passionate souls. Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, who we heard from in our reading, is one of those from whom I have drawn and learned and been inspired by. Born 200 years ago, she was a woman of African descent, born free in Baltimore at a time when enslavement was still legal in Maryland. Raised by her aunt and an uncle who was a minister in the African Methodist Episcopal tradition, she attended a school started by her uncle for Black children, and her schooling ended at age 13 when she became a nursemaid and a seamstress. But she never stopped learning. She was a voracious reader and a self-educated person who possessed so many gifts. At the age of 20, Harper published her first book of poems. She became a lecturer at Union Seminary in Columbus, Ohio, and went on to teach at other educational institutions. She was the first Black woman to ever publish a novel. And yet, her intersecting identities put her at the very bottom of the political, social, and cultural ladder as both a woman and a person of African descent. But despite her vulnerability as the most marginalized of the marginalized, her poems and later her novels expressed her ardent abolitionist and suffragist views. And we could hear, if we had our ears tuned into that speech that she gave in 1866 at the Women's Rights Convention, you can hear our Unitarian ideals. Our Unitarian ancestors believed that God was one. They didn't buy into this triune God, this trinity of Father and Son and Holy Spirit. They believed that Jesus was a human being who had been specially touched by God, sure, but who was not divine in nature. Maybe he got a little bit more of that divine spark that we see in all of God's creation. And because of this divine spark, human beings, said our Unitarian ancestors, human beings are fundamentally good. We can do bad things. I don't want to deny that. Sometimes even unspeakable things. But human nature itself is fundamentally good because we have the spark of the divine within our bodies. We are called to love one another because we have this spark of the divine. Our human struggle is that we must act in ways that affirm the inherent worth and dignity of our fellow human beings, even as some among this great human family do terrible things. We need to make better choices because our faith calls us to always act for the common good. Frances Ellen Watkins Harper had more reason than many to not believe in this divine spark, nor the goodness of humankind. Losing her spouse and the subsequent loss of her home, the tools of her livelihood, her ability to support her children. Long before Rosa Parks refused to move to the back of the bus, Harper and other women leaders of African descent of her days refused to cede to the demand that they ride outside of the carriage with the driver, or on a train they could ride in the smoking car, something that no other woman would be asked to do. All of this because of their gender and the color of their skin. Harper and other Black women of her day truly had no rights under the law. And yet Frances Ellen Watkins Harper believed that despite these frailties of the human spirit, despite our failure to love our neighbors as ourselves, we are worth saving. We are bound up all together in one great bundle of humanity, and society cannot trample on the weakest and the feeblest of its members without receiving the curse in its own soul. In these words, I also hear our Universalist side. Both our Unitarian and our Universalist sides understood that salvation is not an individual task. Our interconnection makes salvation universal. In the vernacular of Harper's day, I can't get to heaven if I don't do my best to make sure that you also get there as well. How we treat one another matters on a soul-deep level. Harper spoke up in defense of women's right to vote, knowing that only white women would attain this right. I say then, she said, that justice is not fulfilled so long as woman is unequal before the law. She knew that injustice cuts both ways, that the soul of the oppressor is harmed in the act of harming another. We are so intimately interdependent and interconnected that we cannot separate ourselves from the great human family. And let's be honest, while she was showing up to speak for justice and equality, she was also a little bit sassy. She said, "I do not believe that giving women the ballot is immediately going to cure the ills of this life. I do not believe that white women are dewdrops just expelled and exhaled from the heavens." These words might sound flippant, but they actually are railing against a common belief of the day that white women were pure expressions of the best of humanity. In these humorous words, she's letting the world know that white women are like all of humanity, sometimes good, sometimes kind, sometimes thoughtful, and also prone to all of the weaknesses and the foibles that everyone else is too. And in holding them up as dewdrops exhaled from heaven, they are denied their full humanity. And toward the end of the speech, a part not included in our reading, she said, "Talk of giving women the ballot box? Go on. It is a normal school, and the white women of this country need it. While there exists this brutal element in society which tramples upon the feeble and treads down the weak, I tell you that if there is any class of people who need to be lifted out of their airy nothingness and selfishness, it is the white women of America." Now, mind you, she was speaking to an audience of these white women. And while she knew that the rights that she was fighting for would not reach her in her lifetime, she persisted. Because no matter what box society puts us into, we deserve to be lifted out of it, to be freed of those walls and restrictions that deny us the ability to be all of who we are. As Harper said, we are one great jumble of humanity. I take so much inspiration from her life, from her writing, her words, and her example. Being a Unitarian Universalist is not easy. We have these values that ask us always to center love. And it's not just a greeting card, pink hearts and lace, superficial kind of love. It is a fierce love that holds us accountable to living these values in our world and not just within our four walls. Even when our world does its best to distract us, this love calls to us, reminding us that we hold the spark of the divine in ourselves. We are good, each possessing inherent worth. And when our faith tradition disappoints us, because we know it will, and when the news of the day, the latest atrocity, the catastrophe, the human-made disaster happens, may we remember to be like Frances Ellen Watkins Harper. May we love our world enough to hold it accountable. May we love one another into being true to that divine spark. And may we do it vigorously with sass and with humor and with grace. May it be so. Our final hymn this morning is Lift Every Voice and Sing. This is also known as the Black National Anthem, and it was first performed as a poem by 500 Black children in commemoration of Lincoln's birthday in 1900. It gained great popularity after it was put to music, and the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People adopted it as its official song. Please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing this hymn, which I believe Francis Allen Watkins Harper would have loved. Lyrics are at 149 and on the screen. Please remain standing as I invite Pat Schlechter and Peter Jackson to come forward to extinguish our chalice and lead us in saying the words written by UU Minister Reverend Elizabeth Sally Jones.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
You may be seated. Our benediction this morning is a poem, again written by Francis Ellen Watkins Harper, because I can't get enough of her poetry. Did you see this grain of sand lying loosely in my hand? Do you know, to me it brought just a simple, loving thought. When one gazes night by night on the glorious stars of light, oh, how little seems the span measured round the life of humans. Oh, how fleeting our years with our smiles and our tears. Can it be that God does care for such atoms as we are? Then out spake that grain of sand, I was fashioned by God's hand. In the starlit realms of space, I was made to have a place. Should the ocean flood the world, were its mountains against me hurled, all the force they could employ wouldn't a single grain destroy. And if I, a thing so light, have a place within God's sight, you who are linked unto God's throne cannot live nor die alone. Our service begins when our service ends. Go in peace. We'll now receive our postlude.